no business wants to ring their clients, ring their suppliers and tell them that they've had a cyber attack and that the personal information or the confidential information of their clients has been released.
Hi, welcome to Coffee with Confio. I'm William Freitas and today's topic is keeping cyber safe during COVID-19. Today we've got Gill Collins on the show, and Gill Collins is from Cybersafe Legal. The team at Cybersafe help businesses understand their cyber risk and give them the risk management procedures and education that they need to make sure they're keeping cyber safe. Gill, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Will. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We are super excited to talk to you because now is a crazy time that we're going through. Coronavirus or COVID-19, however you want to say it, is certainly pushing businesses to moving towards a working from home model or an online business model to provide value to their clients. And what we're really seeing is a time where cyber criminals are using that opportunity to, I guess, capitalize on what clients are doing from home or what businesses are doing from home, and either installing malware or ransomware or even collecting personal information to take advantage of that in the future. What are some of the cyber scams you're seeing right now?
Thanks, Will. Yeah, it's really interesting actually because, who would have thought we'd be where we're at in 2020, and so many people are working remotely, and that in itself creates a greater cybersecurity risk. And what we're seeing, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre has actually been putting out quite a few warnings at the moment. There's a really significant increase in scams, a lot of them to do with COVID-19. So I guess there's, answering your question, I think there's 4 main scams that they're talking about that you might see, mainly phishing emails or phishing texts, which for people that don't know are emails or texts that are designed to try and create an urgency in what you're doing, and for you to click a link that might download some malware or some kind of malicious software onto your systems. So the 4 main ones. Firstly, there's one that's out at the moment that comes from someone called Gov, or Gov with a capital G and a little V. Sometimes it comes from Gmail, but what it does, it talks about COVID-19. It has an attachment and it says, click on the link to find out where you can be tested for COVID-19 in your area.
Yep.
So that's the first one. People want to find out information about COVID, so people are really tempted to click on it. Yeah. The second one is kind of a variation of a really standard phishing email that's been around for ages. I'm sure you've heard of one from Australia Post where they say, there's a parcel, we need some more information about delivery address and personal information. So this is a little bit similar, but it actually says, we know that you're planning to travel overseas in 2020, but now your plans have been changed. Click here to find out about what are some of the rules about travelling to the countries that maybe you were planning on going to, and how they've been affected by COVID. So again, it's a link, you click on it and it downloads some malicious software. The third one, which I guess is really worrying, comes from the World Health Organization or some kind of health company saying, here are the, there's a link attached, here are the main symptoms of COVID and this is what you can do to protect yourself. Again, a link, click on it, and what you're doing is actually downloading malware. And what the malware does in some of these ones is actually it goes searching in your devices for your private information, and particularly your banking information, and accesses your banking information.
And you might not know that someone's in your system for quite a while, right? We've seen it with clients plenty of times where someone's been in the system for a long time, and they may well access your system during this COVID-19 time, but may not, I guess, present themselves or see, you might not see what their damage is until later on, which is really alarming. And I really see that quite a bit. I've received a few text messages myself. Obviously, our numbers are on the public domain, so they're quite easy to capture. But you've really got to be quite smart about what you're looking out for, right? Because these text messages are quite well put together.
Absolutely, and they prey on urgency. The last one that I was just going to mention is one about the fiscal package that's just been announced, and there's emails now going around saying you're entitled to a payment under that package. Click this link, fill in the attachment, and we'll get it activated. But one of the interesting things about that is it says you have to do it by 5 o'clock today.
Right.
So they're preying on the urgency. They need you to actually panic and think, I've got to do this right now. Quick link, click it and open it up and do it now. So.
And people are desperate, right?
They are. Everyone's desperate.
Laying off staff, they've suffered a significant downturn in their income.
Yeah.
So they really do think that clicking on this link is going to be the thing that the government wants me to do so that I can get this benefit. We see it all the time, and it's something definitely people should be looking out for.
Yeah.
But what are your top tips for businesses to consider? I guess to make sure they're cyber safe.
Particularly when people are working from home.
Yeah.
Look, I guess the best thing I could say is number one is just slow down. I always say this when I'm doing some training and awareness for cybersecurity, because people are always working hard. They're in a pressured situation, and you can really identify phishing emails if you actually take the time and slow down and look carefully at what's being asked of you and who it's coming from. Particularly the title of the email or the text, that often is a real giveaway. It's a red flag. So if you take your time and look really carefully, you can often identify these phishing emails before you get caught up with them.
Yeah.
I guess the second thing, working from home, is also to understand what your remote working policy might be. Know what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, whether you can actually download documents on your personal devices, whether you're able to maybe use a VPN, how you're actually meant to carry out your work when you're working from home, because every company will have a policy and you should follow that. Password practice is really important. Good quality passwords. Never ever use your personal passwords for your work passwords. That's a big one. If you can do dual factor or multi-factor authentication, have a couple of authenticator processes before you actually get into some work documents or work information systems. And backup's a really important one.
Yeah.
We work on the 3-2-1 rule that you should have 3 backups, 2 on different media and 1 off-site.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, that's fantastic. So there's lots of little tips really that you can carry out, and they're basic things. One of the things that's obviously really important is educating your people on what your cybersecurity practices are, so that every single person in your organisation knows what their role in cybersecurity is.
And why is it so important for small businesses to focus on cybersecurity, especially all businesses in Australia? What are the key risks that they face if they do suffer a cyber attack?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because a lot of small businesses particularly don't think that they're at risk. There's really what I would call 4 major risks that a small business would face. Obviously, we all understand about the business operational risk, which is the risk that you face in not being able to do business because of a cyber attack. When your systems are down, when you can't contact people, that's obviously a really big risk, and that's something that then leads into the second risk, which is a reputational risk. No business wants to ring their clients, ring their suppliers and tell them that they've had a cyber attack and that the personal information or the confidential information of their clients has been released. And what it can do reputationally is massive. Even 50% of small businesses that suffer a major cyber attack are no longer in business 12 months later, and that's a really horrible statistic. So obviously, so there's 2. The third risk is your regulatory risk, which is the risk of breaching regulations. There's a reporting regime in Australia that you have to comply with, so you have to actually understand what the regulations are that apply to your business. Yeah. And the fourth one is actually the risk of litigation, that you can be sued for breaching your duty to keep confidential information confidential.
And 80% of, cyber attacks in Australia happen to be the human element, right? From your employee or a contractor. And I see a lot of clients say, well, Will, I don't have a risk. I'm not online. Talk to us a little bit about the human element and why that's so important in cybersecurity.
Well, I call it the weakest link in a lot of ways. The human element, we talked about it slightly earlier, but the human element is so important. Every single person in your business has a responsibility for your cybersecurity. It can be the most senior partner or the most senior executive in your business, or it can be someone who is just a casual who comes in for 2 hours a week. But every single one of those people, if they have access to your information systems, to your networks and to your data, any action they take can actually put the company or the organisation at risk.
Yeah.
So you really have to make sure that you have a holistic approach to cybersecurity, that it impacts on everyone in the organisation, and that you continue to educate and keep updated and keep in the forefront of all your employees' minds how important cybersecurity really is.
And education is super key, as you mentioned.
Absolutely,
because it can happen to anyone at
Absolutely.
any time. It's the old saying that it'll never happen to me, but we've seen it happen plenty of times. So thank you for that.
That's okay.
We can't let you come off the show without our favourite section, which is the Confio Confession. What someone knows, or what? No, actually, something that nobody knows about you.
This was the question I was dreading the most, I've got to be honest. Okay, so I guess for me, something that not very many people know about me is that my husband and I have some friends in Arizona that we go and visit, and we were actually going to go and visit them soon, but unfortunately can't go. But one of the things we love doing with them is going to the rodeo, and after there's been the bull riding and all the kids kind of ride the little sheep, and it's a fantastic kind of atmosphere. One of the things that they all do is they start line dancing, and so my husband and I have decided that we wanted to be able to participate in that this time.
Nice.
So we've been taking some dancing lessons so that we can do that when we go to Arizona next, whenever that may be.
And you've probably got a little bit more time to practice, right?
I think we do.
Do you wear a hat as well, like the cowboy
hat and the boots and the whole lot.
You can't do it without that,
And
right?
the beer in the hand. You've got to have the whole lot.
Classic.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, Jill, it's been great having you on
Thanks,
the show.
Will.
Thank you so much. I know plenty of people would have got value from that, particularly around why it's so important for businesses to focus on cyber risk. And it's for all businesses. You don't have to be online. It's that human element as well. You can just be in any industry. You can be an electrician, you can be a plumber, or you can be a lawyer, an accountant. You have a cyber risk. Particularly now that everyone's working from home, that's heightened with cyber criminals taking advantage of that. So please, if you have any additional questions for myself or Jill, please feel free to reach out directly on social media. We'd be happy to answer those questions for you, because again, this really is just about providing value to you and making sure you take your business to the next level. Thanks again for tuning in to Coffee with Confio, and I'm William Freitas. See you next time.